Welcome back to another Walk and Talk. We have an interesting guest today, someone who I'm sure you will all recognise, but a few bits before we move on. Elections is coming up, so please do try and keep an eye on that and go to the CUSU website if you want more information. And on top of that, we are still participating in our Brit 2021 challenge. So again, CUSU website, you might be able to find a little bit more information there, and also join the Strava group whilst you're out doing some activity. So without further ado, return of the Mac. Let's get that conversation started. How you doing? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Right, give us a little introduction. Come on, where are you? Where are you walking? Bit of a history of yourself and why you're on this podcast or on this conversation today.
My name's Millie Mac, and I was previously the Vice President for Sport and Wellbeing at CUSU, for those of you that didn't know. And I finished there in June, and then I moved back home. So I'm in a park in Liverpool at the moment. And yeah, looking forward to getting to chat to Will.
Lovely stuff. No, I think everyone knows who you are, let's be honest. You were a big sort of figure in your years at university. How's things going then? So you're back in Liverpool. What are you doing now?
So at the moment I'm working for Uber Eats. I am like an account manager basically, so looking after new restaurants, getting them on board, etc. Working from home, so the job's actually based in London, but I'm working from home at the moment, so yeah, just cooped up in my little study at the moment, like most people.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, isn't it, at the moment? But
yeah.
It's nice that we can get out today, even though it is extremely windy. So apologies for any sound issues if you hear them. So life with the Sabb. How many years were you in the Sabb role for?
So I did it for 2 years, and I did that coming from being president of netball, and sport was something that I just loved doing, and I loved mixing with students and seeing if I could make things a bit better for sports students, like in terms of university, in terms of equipment, facilities, whatever it was, whatever their problems were. So I went for it and I got it, did it for the first year, absolutely loved it, and I went for it a second time, and it was just so rewarding. I'm not an athlete, I don't know if any of you know that, but as such, but I just love sport, love the way it makes you feel. I love being as part of a team and stuff like that, so it's something that I'm really passionate about, and it was just, I love doing it. I didn't want it to end, especially in the middle of a pandemic.
No, of course.
Ideal.
Of course, but was that the sort of main driving force then? That was the reason why you got into it, just that passion for sport, that desire to sort of support students, and was that it, or was there more to that kind of story?
I'd say like having the passion as well for people at different levels, so understanding that we had Team Phoenix and we had stuff in place for people who were actually athletes who took sport really seriously, and then filtering all the way down to people who just want to pick up a ball or pick up a pint with a team, and not even play at times, but just bring that sense of community together, and really having good communication between students, and they're paying to be at university, so you want to give them a really good experience, and then found things along the way that I became more passionate about. So women's sport in particular, that was one thing, and just loads of stuff along the way. There's just so many things. It's mad that varsity was a year ago today. That was a big day, big hangover.
Frightening, that, isn't it?
Very good.
I think you touched on a really good point there. From the short sort of time we were able to work together, because I came in your second year, you always had your finger on the pulse, like you said, with the different sort of dynamics of sport. Sport is so varied, isn't it? It can be as recreational as going for a kickabout with your friends in the park, or going for a jog, or whatever, to, like you said, Team Phoenix sport, which is way more organised, structured, and performance-based. And you always seem to have your finger on the pulse with that, which was good. And you understood the balance, which is quite a hard skill to do. what about your playing experiences then? So when you were, what was it, club captain at netball originally for a few years, or was that for 1 year?
So I was social sec. Great role. And then I did a placement year, and then I came back, and then I was president for a year. So that's where I kind of got a bit more responsibility, a bit more kind of organising, mixing with different presidents from different clubs, seeing what their opinions were and everything. And yeah, just mixing in that kind of way as well. So I'm just going to turn around, because a lot of dogs over there. But yeah, and just hearing kind of over the years, like working with students in different ways, for my gain as well as everybody else's. So yeah.
Did those two roles make the transition easy when you went for the Sabb role, or did they help, or also did it actually make it probably more complex? And we'll delve into that a little bit more in a minute, but what's your initial thoughts?
I think a bit of both. So I think it was really helpful for things like learning in terms of club structure and things like that, and kind of what was expected of clubs. And you know, it was quite good for me to, when I was talking to a president, think back of what I did and what I would have, how I would have liked to be spoken to, treated, what I would have done. Was I asking too much of people? You know, I think back, like I was in my final year, I had a lot going on. You know, we don't want to be asking too much of students. It is a voluntary position. They're all voluntary roles, but at the same time we do want to push them a little bit, because we want them to get something out of it as well. So yeah, and then the other side to it was obviously like knowing people, and things like disciplinaries were really hard. telling people off when I know that I'd probably done the same, if not worse, in my time. But trying to keep up with the current position that I had, which was obviously I was getting paid for it. I was representing more students. So yeah, it was good and bad, but I do think overall it was a good thing, because it's kind of allows you to get a taste of what it is. And I think if anyone is, I know you've got elections coming up, if anyone is thinking about doing it, honestly, go for it. Voluntary and the role that I did, you've got nothing to lose, you've got everything to gain, and it's just something to put on your CV. What's going to make you stand out? What are you going to get out of this experience? You know, whether that's people skills, whether that is behind the scene treasury, monetary skills, whether that's organisation skills. I mean, I know this year's not been great due to the pandemic. There's not been a lot of kind of outgoing and incoming and all that, but there's still ways. You know, I know I've seen a lot of clubs raising money and organising themselves in different ways. So just get stuck in, have a go, apply. If you don't get in, apply next year. If you do get in, go for it. Great.
No, exactly. There's been some fantastic achievements despite all this troubles we've all faced. But no, just going back to your point around kind of, it's difficult when you've been a student and then been a committee member and then moved up to a Sabb. But the reason why I asked is because exactly what you said, you're almost quite close, aren't you? You're still very connected with them as friends, but then you've got that dual role. But that was another thing I was very impressed with during your time, that you struck a really good balance and you took it seriously. It was a professional role, and you already touched on it there. It was all about kind of life after university, even whilst you were there, weren't you? You were thinking, what's this going to get me into next? What can I learn from this so that I'm more employed, or I've got more employability opportunities and stuff like that? What were your learnings then during those 2 years? What were some of the big things you thought of and went, actually, this is going to help me moving forward in life?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky that I did a placement year. So in my third year, so the year before, I was president of the netball club, and I did it with the employability team at the university.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I was writing CVs for students. I was helping them apply for interviews, placements, full-time jobs. So when I was looking and working through there, that's when it started. Like I started to think, what can I get out of this final year that I'm going to be getting? What can I get out of my placement year? You know, even if it's, I can demonstrate communication, I can demonstrate organisation. And that's what, like, it's really important for students to start thinking about. I know that I came out of this job and I was unemployed for 2 or 3 months, and that was really tough. And I kind of treated that like it was a full-time job, unemployment. So I would literally get up every day.
I would say it's harder than employment at times, realistically.
Yeah. It's really tough because your brain never switches off. And so it's not like you when you're working, you know, normally it's Monday to Friday, and the weekend you can close your laptop. Well, this was, you know, 24 hours a day, and I was kind of thinking, that today I would have had a paycheck. It's not going to come in. When's my next one going to be? You know, you have a couple of rejections and you go, am I employable? Help me. Someone employ me. And then, and then actually this summer, I, like, by a fluke, by a family friend, they had an opening in a GP surgery. And I was like, oh, please just get me into doing some work. Like, I need to just be busy. So I went and did that for a month, and that was brilliant. I loved doing that. And again, I learned something totally different. Like, the way people would speak to you, it was just hilarious. Like, the stories I could tell just from being there for a month. But but again, I would say to anybody who's worried about employment or worried about, you know, what's the next stage after uni or placement years that have been cancelled, if you can just go and do a month voluntary work somewhere like that where you're going to get skills regardless of what you're doing, and just go and do it, because it's been so helpful for me, like, all the way through, and actually you might go on to enjoy it like I did. So
the big thing for me there, or what I'm hearing from you, is it's experience, isn't it? It's a variety of experience as well. It's not just like, I'm going to do this because it brings a bit of money in. Great. It's also experience, and it's connecting with different people, learning from those different environments, and then that all hopefully comes full circle by eventually getting you a job that you actually want and enjoy. But challenging time, isn't it, after university? And I feel really sorry now for sort of third years and fourth year students going into
so hard
life after university. I mean, it was difficult as it was before, wasn't it? Like, for yourself, it was difficult 5-10 years ago for sort of my generation, but now it's probably the hardest. So I think really good message there about trying to just get lots of experience, lots of opportunities, keep positive during those challenging times. And also, I think you sort of turned it around in 2-3 months, which is pretty impressive, I would say. If it takes you a year or so, or a little bit of time, and living at home, don't worry about that.
Exactly.
I think you were very quick, if anything, to get kind of back on the job ladder and back into a role. And maybe it was the Sabb role that helped you do that. I don't know. So not wanting to put words in your mouth, but just from the outside.
Oh, definitely. And working that full-time role as well, like, it gave me a sense of routine. So it meant that, you know, I didn't just sleep in till the afternoon. I was getting up literally 8:30, 9 in the morning as if I was going to go to work, sat at my laptop, scoured LinkedIn, looked on Indeed, applied for different recruitment agencies, and that's how I actually got through in the end, through a recruitment agency. So, and my current role is technically within sales. I've never done sales before, and I actually really, really enjoy it. So, you know, just go for it. Just if you do something for 6 months and you don't like it, just remember what you're getting out of it. So as you're going along, put that into LinkedIn, write down, you know, if you get knocked back from an interview, one of the best things you can take from that is like the notes that you write down. So even if you feel bitter, hurt, angry, which we all do when we're rejected, if you write down, like, what did they ask me? What was their feedback that I struggled on? And then you can really learn from that and make sure the next time you get asked that question, then you can answer it really, really well. And that's something that really helped me as well.
Yeah, completely agree. And they're all things as well that when you're in the role will be beneficial as well, aren't they? Because, like you said, you've worked out how to communicate with people just from receiving feedback and learning and listening and all those kind of things. They're also going to be beneficial when you actually get the job.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think you've done incredibly well to kind of move on so quickly from the role. So
I haven't moved on. I haven't moved on in my heart.
You will never move on. Millie
No.
Mac is always going to be part of QC and Sport Commentary, I think. So any other sort of reflections then from those 2 years, or things, some sort of fond memories that bounce straight back to you when we talk about sport commentary? And
I think not being afraid to make mistakes, because I think I'm quite a person that I don't like negative feedback. Well, nobody does, but I don't like criticism. I don't like the thought of somebody not liking me or something that I've done. And actually, sometimes decisions you have to make are not popular. And actually, in that role, you didn't please everybody ever. So somebody was upset at every twist and turn. But just being confident in yourself to go, I've made that decision. That's an informed decision. Sticking with it. If you don't like it, then let's talk about the next time something like that comes up and how we can help you in a different way. And I think that goes right down to president's social sex. Not everyone's going to like what social you put on every week. Not everyone's going to want to come to your social, but as long as you are not doing that for yourself, you're doing that for everybody, that you've made an informed decision, you've spoken to people, and then just go with it. And if people don't like it, then fine. You just need to communicate that and be confident enough in yourself to know, I'm doing this for this reason and I'm happy with that. And if you don't like it, then we'll talk about ways we can include you, things like introducing non-drinking socials, because I know that drinking, when I was at uni, was sometimes a big divide. People would say, I don't drink, I'm not going to come to your social, etc. So that's fine. I'm going to continue with the drinking socials to please a lot of people, but let's look at different avenues. Let's go bowling. And I know in the pandemic, again, it's not ideal, but you can do that with, do people like quizzes? Do people like bingo? Do people like,
be creative
mix
with
it
that
up?
approach.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we're all sick of quizzes at the moment. I got PTSD from lockdown 1 quizzes, but
I think back in the day we actually got you to host most of them, didn't we? So no wonder you've got PTSD. But I'm sure they went down well, Millie, and I'm sure they were beneficial, keeping people's minds preoccupied. How have you found lockdown then? Because I mean, not only have you gone through kind of getting a new job, finishing your sort of big sort of time of your life, or most recent sort of time of your life at university, which is a big shift for anyone, isn't it, going from university culture to the outside world, the real world. How have you found lockdown, and what have been your coping mechanisms, I suppose?
I think there's definitely been highs and lows of lockdown. Like,
join the club.
When we first went into lockdown, it's quite a novelty. Like, I quite enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I was so busy. I was going out like 3 or 4 times a week. I was really, really stretched. And then it came to a halt, and I was like, this is quite nice. Like, we were just sitting in the garden. The weather was nice.
The weather was lovely,
eating nice things, drinking nice things. And then I think as it went on, and it was like, oh, this isn't like a 2-week thing. I was like, oh, okay. And then looking forward to, finishing my job. And initially I was like, I think I need a bit of a break. I'm quite looking forward to it. And then as it got closer, I was like, I need something to do. I can't have a break. I need something to fill my time. But I think I was really lucky to have a really supportive family. And I know that not everybody has that. So I do feel really lucky that they were like, come home, we'll sort it. It doesn't matter if you're not earning, you don't need to pay rent. It's absolutely fine. And then again, it kind of, we all got let out a little bit more. We had a nice taste of summer. I got to go on holiday. Again, felt very lucky.
One of the lucky ones.
Oh, it was lovely. And then it struck again, and we were in tier 3 in October, so we had like the the start of it before everybody else did, and then it was another realization of it's dark, it's wet, you know, it's not as fun now. We can't sit in the garden and drink rosé.
No, everyone I've spoken to's really emphasised how difficult this lockdown or this year has been compared to the first one. And like you said, different for everyone, isn't it? You have different peaks and troughs of when your mood feels worse and better. But I agree, like a lot of people have really struggled just to find a bit of balance this time round, haven't they? Because like you said, it was okay when you sat at your desk 9 to 5, but then in the evening you could go out for a walk, or you could go, like you said, sit in the sun, or do something else, or go and see a friend for a walk. Now, or previously during January, it was kind of you shut your desk, shut your computer at 9 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I wish you shut it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was pitch black, and it was make dinner. And it was difficult, wasn't it? But did you manage to do much? Sort of like, did you keep physically fit, or anything like that? Online classes or stuff like that keep you motivated during this period of time, or was it just kind of tricky?
Yeah, I think so initially, like when I was in Coventry, obviously I didn't have a car, so I walked around quite a lot. I never ever thought about doing 10,000 steps in a day, and when I look back on it, I was pretty much doing it most days. I can't believe how long it feels when you haven't got a purpose, when you're not going to walk to do something. You know, I'm lucky I've got a dog. We've got 2 dogs to walk, but if you're walking without a purpose, just to literally hit those 10,000 steps, feels like you're walking for about 3 hours. And in the first lockdown, it was sunny, it was fine. You know, when you got to go and meet a friend, you can walk with them. It was quite good. This lockdown, honestly, I had no motivation at all, and I was like, when you got up and it was raining, not today. Snooze the alarm. When you finish, it's raining. I just can't be bothered, I'm sorry. And then so I basically, for Lent, we were trying to think of what we could give up, and then I just said, you know, I don't really want to give anything up, because at the moment, you know, we're going through whatever we're going through. We've got to find the small pleasures through food and drink as it is. So my kind of, instead of giving something up, I'm doing 10,000 steps for 40 days, so every day, and it's so much easier now that the light is a bit better, and honestly it makes such a difference to my day. If I don't get up, so I start work at 9, if I don't get up and do even a 20-minute walk before then, I'm just like, I look ill. I'm like, I'm not awake energy at all. No, nothing.
I completely agree, and that this shameless plug coming, but that was the whole idea behind this, was give someone or people something just to listen to for 20 minutes whilst they're out and about, and listen to some interesting guests, and have something just on in the mind. Because like you said, just get up every day and go for a walk can be a bit monotonous without something to keep your mind at bay. But there was definitely sort of 2 types of people, wasn't there, during lockdowns? There was the ones who go out and like, I'm going to learn a new skill. Fantastic. Like I wouldn't stop you from doing it. Brilliant. But then there's also the people that just need to survive and get through it, and kind of batten down the hatches a little bit and go, right, let's just get through this stage of our lives and kind of move on a little bit. And I think you shouldn't feel ashamed if you're one way or the other. There was a lot of you were watching people, weren't you? It's very easy to see people on Instagram doing X, Y, and Z, but the reality of it is they're probably sitting at home doing not much for the rest of the 12 hours of the day anyway. So, and
I think it was interesting to see like the trends. Like, do you remember in the first lockdown when we had that, like, not run 5, donate 5, nominate 5? And although it was so irritating, it did get everybody to do a 5k. So it did get everybody to know, and I did it a few times before I admitted that was my time. But you know, it's all about the taking part that counted, and
it is.
I think things like that is really important. And we do go through phases. You know, I remember this one night in lockdown when I was like, I'm going to buy a guitar and I'm going to buy something to learn. And then I was like, no, I'm not. Why would I do that? Well, I could just watch someone do it on TikTok instead.
That is probably the way of learning a new skill now, isn't it? I'm definitely not in that generation. I wouldn't understand where to start.
I didn't want to be, but it just drags you in, and then you're stuck in a rabbit hole, and then you're like, oh, that was just not good for my eyes.
No, it's tricky, but I think going kind of like full circle, hopefully, some easing of rules and restrictions will be beneficial in some ways, because if it gets people, or if it's easier for people to go out and play a bit of sport, or it's easier for them to go and see a friend who they therefore can help them go for a walk or whatever. Mm-hmm. And also, like you said, going back to those support bubbles, you're very fortunate. You've got your family who looks after you after university, and so have I, and that's my biggest sort of support mechanism. But not everyone has, and a lot of them rely on friends and friendship, don't they, for that? So
exactly, think, and also not feeling like as well, because I know I've felt a little bit like this since the announcement yesterday. Yeah. You know, don't worry if you're not overjoyed.
Yeah,
like everybody else, you know, and you're not like, oh, 21st of June. Don't get me wrong, there's a part of me that's like, oh, that's going to be a good time when we get to that point. But there is a big part of me that's like, I'm not ready for that. It feels too much. It's too overwhelming. You know, I've not done anything for the last nearly a year. I've not pushed myself really at all. And the thought of going back out 2 nights a week, Friday and a Saturday, working all week, you know, seeing loads of people, driving up and down the country. Part of me is like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that yet.
Well, it'd be a different kind of mental strain, won't it? It's like it's the same outcome, which is you probably end up burnt out and tired, but in a different way. So people do need to be really sort of conscious of that, I think. And
just communicating that to your mates, you know, if someone's like, well, why aren't you coming out? You've not got anything else to do. Well, just be wary that some people quite like doing nothing, and actually having done nothing for a year, it's going to be harder for some people to just go, hey, let's go free drinking and let's go out till 4 o'clock. And it'll
be similar with work as well for us all, won't it? Like we'll go from 5 days at home to potentially going back into work if you're customer facing and stuff like that. It's difficult for everyone. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of more challenging roles out there than the ones we both have, with who have been customer facing or kind of at the front of things throughout this whole time. So I'm not saying it's particularly worse, but I just mean we've got to adapt, haven't we? But anyway, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, even for those people who, you know, have been customer facing the whole time, if things then get busier, or if things get more like heated, and you know, I think for all the people who are going to be in hospitality, they've been furloughed or lost their jobs this whole time, and they're going to then be expected to wait on our hands and feet when we want to go out drinking, and that's going to be really tough for them as well. So it's going to be tough for everybody in different ways, I guess.
It is. So it's similar to what you said earlier on about your role as a Sabb, but you can't really please everyone. You've just got to try and make good informed decisions, and hopefully the governor done that. But before we go down that rabbit hole, I think I'll invite you to ask a few questions like I do every time, or if you've got any things that you want to raise, and then I'll try and leave you with a few thoughts or a few questions. So any thoughts from you or anything you want to ask?
Maybe in terms of, have you, as like a sports department, look at doing anything differently when sport arrives back? Because obviously that's going to be a big shock for a department that's not had a great deal to do in terms of like practicality and everything like that. Is there anything that you've looked and reflected on and have changed when everything looks to open up again?
Good question, and quite a tricky one to answer, I suppose. But we did do a sort of a term 1 review. We didn't get many sports back, as I'm sure you're aware. So I think we ended up getting 6 or 7 back, and we did a little review on that and sort of came up with some findings. We've been able to kind of do the majority of risk assessments for like the complex sports as well. And for those who don't know, the complex sports are stuff like you've got karting in there, you've got mountaineering, you've got swimming, and there's all these different kind of elements that if in general terms they're difficult, but if you add COVID on top, they're really difficult. So but with 100%. Regards to trying to do something new, I'm not too sure. I think, to be honest, it's a bit of like we've just got to get off the ground. Like run before we can walk. We've just got to get something off the ground. And there'll obviously have to be a little bit of patience from students, kind of recognising that we've got 48 pubs to get moving all at once potentially, or gradually, depending on how it works. But yeah, something new. I'm not too sure. I just think it might be it was the first time round, and I think this worked quite well for us. It was almost case by case. So it was what sport, what need, what requirements do they have, and then just trying to help them get back to being on the pitch or on the court, or even some social aspects. But the sports have been fantastic from a social aspect, and hopefully we've offered a few little bits like this as well. But yeah, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be really, really challenging.
Yeah,
I think. But
you've got it. I'm sure everybody who I've worked with at KUSU in sport, they're all passionate about one thing and trying to increase the student satisfaction and the student experience. So yeah, definitely. It's just going to be playing it by ear, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of quick questions for you. So reflecting back on your 2 years, what do you think your biggest legacy has been? We're going to have a webinar tomorrow on kind of leaving your legacy as a committee position, but also we talk a little bit about kind of the Sabb role as well. So what do you think your biggest kind of legacy has been, or your biggest achievement potentially? And that could be just a feeling, or just something you hope has happened, or it could be something you might have been taken part of, or something you led, I suppose.
Oh, that's a tough question. I think varsity, like this time last year, was massive for staff, students, everybody that took part. Everyone was so geared up for it. Everyone was so up for anything. People went and supported other people in their fixtures and everything, and going to watch random sport that you'd never seen before. And there's that famous quote that's people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I hope that when I look back on varsity and games in general, where we got like big crowds to go, or we did something special for them, and I'm not saying this was down to me at all, it was down to the hard work of all the sports staff, but we really did work our socks off. We really did give up our weekends, stay long hours, really talk to them, seeing if we can get the most out of what it is for them. And I think, when I look back, varsity was brilliant, and I can't believe that we had big crowds this time last year. It's just crazy, isn't it? And I wish we could go back and do it again. And like, in a way, it's good that we didn't know that was like the last big thing we'd be doing. But in a way, I was like, oh, I wish I'd have known, so I could have like drank it in a bit more and just felt that atmosphere. But I think we all did a pretty good job of that. But yeah.
No, I think that's a fantastic point. And I think if you ask a lot of the students, the current students now, or who were sort of a student during your time as Sabb, I think some of their lasting memories will be varsity as well. So like you said, they probably felt it, which is a brilliant one. I completely agree. Your involvement was massive. Final question then. 5 years' time, where does sport fit into your life? Does it fit into just purely recreational and fun, or is it back into work? Is it back into employment, or is it something that you might not be involved in, or you might not kind of value as much then as you do potentially now as a student and in your current life? What's your thoughts?
So I think sport will definitely always be a part of my life, whether that is professional or not. I think I would always want to, either be a member of a local league or something like that. Basically have my toe in some kind of pond, whether that's netball. I quite like a lot of sports. I love watching sport. I love football. Don't talk about Liverpool at the moment, thank you.
Moving on.
And then I think, looking at my career now, I'm in a job in an industry that is thriving at the moment. So for Uber Eats, food delivery, everyone's in lockdown, it's perfect. But I do think that I would love to work in sport and wellbeing, and potentially university again one day. Or there's so many different things that you don't even realise are out there, like so many like wellbeing officer or welfare somebody at a school or a university or something. Like, don't just think there's your run-of-the-mill jobs and everything. And I think sport's just brilliant. It'll never leave me. I'll never not be involved in it in some way. Some way I'll wiggle my way back in. But yeah.
No, it's brilliant. That's
definitely
the answer I wanted to hear. But it is interesting. The biggest kind of drop-off rates, aren't they, are before university or so after school, and also after university. So no, that's lovely to hear. So we'll wrap it up there, Millie. Massive thank you for being involved in whatever this shambles of a episode is. But no, lovely to catch up.
I feel sorry for the people who are listening to this on their walk as a treat. I'm like,
hey, they'll love it. They'll love it. They'll love it. I'm glad you did most of the speaking anyway. They don't want to hear me. So right, we'll leave it there and we'll speak soon.
Bye, Will.
Cheers. Millie. Bye.
Bye.